By the way, this microphone was switched off, so
that microphone is just for show.
It's empty. It's just plastic. There's
Exactly,
nothing in it.
It's you know, when you get dummy cameras, that's just a dummy microphone.
Yeah, $50 cheap rubbish.
I don't know who you are, but welcome to the Irish Photography Podcast. Sit back, relax, and listen about cameras, gear, settings, stories, and all things photography. Join Darren on Ireland's Best Photography Podcast. Let's go.
You're very welcome to episode 138 of the Irish Photography Podcast. My name is Darren, I'm your host, and I'm joined by somebody who's been on the podcast a number of times before, and I'm really, really excited to welcome him back. So, welcome back to the Irish Photography Podcast, Gavin Hardcastle. How are you getting on, buddy?
Oh, I'm all right, mate. I'm not too bad. It's a pleasure to be back on here, and hopefully I'm not going to embarrass myself like I did last time. You know.
Well, hang on. I want to set some ground rules in place anyway here now, first and foremost, right?
All right,
none of this shameless plugging of this book on this place now, okay? Let's try and keep it book free, because you have been quite good at being dropping it in here and dropping it in there. So nothing on this podcast about your book, okay?
Well, it's been a really good interview, Darren. I guess I'll be seeing you then, because that's all I've got to talk about. You know, there's literally nothing else.
All right, I'll make a deal with you, right? We'll try and avoid it, but here's what I'll do, right? To try and help you to kind of avoid by mentioning the book as often as you can. I'll play a little bit of a game. Every time you mention the book, I'm going to give you one strike. And if you mention the book more than 5 times, you'll have to commit to give me a book that I can give away to one of our fantastic, beautiful listeners. How about that?
Oh, that sounds fair. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll be getting the book, but we'll see. You know, it's a nice little game. You know, we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how we go. And you know, look, I alluded to you. Obviously, you've been on the podcast a couple of times before, so this is the 3rd time back. So maybe 3 times the charm. But it's a year since you were last on. I think actually it was just at the start of everything in March of last year. So where have you gone exploring around the beautiful Vancouver Island since you were last on?
Since I was last on, all that I've been able to do is, obviously Vancouver Island and a little bit of the Canadian Rockies last summer, back when we were allowed to leave Vancouver Island.
It's the perfect shot, and it's just begun to happen, is this light on this peak. So I want this light to maybe light a beautiful stripe on these peaks here, as if the whole mountain has been dipped in lava, and then we'll see what it does to those clouds in the peaks, which obviously all of that absolute deliciousness will get reflected in this flat, calm Mirror Lake. Honestly, I couldn't ask for more. Absolutely tremendous.
It may not happen very often, but when it does, this is the moment that we live for.
We're now allowed again, actually. Yesterday, I think we were told that we were allowed to leave this tiny little island. Strange. I don't remember committing a crime, but there you go. I was under lock and key. But so now we can leave again. So, but to be quite honest with you, in that year, I hadn't really managed to see that many new places. But what I did manage to do is get better shots at some of the locations that I've been going to for years. In fact, I managed to get some really nice winter storm wave shots, which I really didn't think I was going to get anything that good, but I got lucky, got some beautiful conditions. So, you know, as far as somewhere to be trapped, Vancouver Island's about as good as it gets, really. I feel quite lucky.
I agree with you. You know, I mean, we were trapped here in Ireland, and Ireland is such a beautiful place to be as well. But I do envy you on a lot of the, I suppose, diversity that you do have on Vancouver Island. And like, I did see a number of times as well, watching your videos and such like that, that you were out quite a lot in some beautiful areas as well. But it was during those videos actually that I noticed that you started to kind of drop in a few hints about what we won't mention.
Well, I mean, they're really subtle, obviously. You know, I definitely try not to overdo it, you know, and I do get a lot of comments on my videos, people saying just how tastefully subtle my marketing is,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
I've really practiced and honed that craft. And in fact, I've invented a new term. I think I've invented something completely new, and I call it skitvertising.
Yeah, come on. Let me show you this. You ready?
Yeah.
It's a copy of Chasing All with Gavin Hardcastle. Oh, another one. What's this? There's a link in the description.
And it's basically this function whereby you market a product by making it into part of a funny story and narrative. And if you do it well, people won't hate you for trying to sell them something. Whereas as soon as you say, this video is sponsored by Squarespace, they're hitting that skip button and just slide into the next bit where it's gone. So I've coined the phrase skitvertising. Maybe I'm not the first ever, but I've definitely, I think I've perfected the technique. Well, I'm selling a lot of books anyway, put it that way. Oh.
That's one tick. There we go. Yeah. Well, look, you know what? I think I really enjoyed you on the skitvertising, and I think it's actually quite interesting because you mentioned about people getting annoyed. Speaking of annoyed, how's Uncle Grumpy doing?
Have you seen his video that came out today?
I haven't watched it yet, no.
Adam's been doing a brilliant job of every time I mention my book in his videos, because he doesn't really feature me in his videos that much, even though we're always shooting together, and he's pretty much always in all of my videos. But for some reason, I don't show up in his all that much. It's weird, isn't it? But I did manage to show up for a brief appearance, a brief cameo in today's Adam Gibbs video, and just as I was mentioning my book, he switched it for his book and just dropped his name in there, which I thought was quite funny.
This is a perfect opportunity to introduce this amazing new book. Apparently it's a bestseller. It's called
Quiet Light by Adam Gibbs. Link in the description below.
So he's doing his own little skitvertising as well. He's piggybacking off my skitvertising for his own skitvertising. So
he did one. I think where you were. There was a skit that you were doing where he was asleep in the back of his van. And you walked over with your book, and I knew it was your book, but when he edited it, he edited a picture of his book over your book as well. And
I think for every time he does that, I think he should be giving away one of his books as well. He should be made to pay for that. So
should be. And it's a fine book. It's a fine book, by the way. Sorry, I should.
I gave him free copy of my book, but he didn't give me one of his. I've still yet to get a copy, stingy bugger.
And tell me, on the trips that you've done there, like you mentioned, you managed to get some new shots of different areas and different seasons. Did you get many bangers during the last year in Vancouver Island?
I got quite a few bangers, which you'll remember from my Best of 2020 video, which went out at Christmas. I don't know if I've had maybe one banger since then, and I've been working really hard this year to try and get some shots, but I've just not had much luck in terms of the light. But next week and right through until late September, we should be able to get up into the mountain regions because the snow will have melted. So
sweet. We're
going to get high alpine activity and maybe some wildflowers and some windswept peaks. So I'm hoping that this summer is going to open up some options for us, and we'll get some big bangers.
Absolutely. And I think, within that, have you one photograph of the last year that's your favorite?
That's a tricky one, is that?
I know. It's like saying which your favorite cat.
Yeah. I know which one it is, but they're both in here right now, so I can't say.
You can't say. No, you can't say. No.
No, there was this one shot of the storm. It was this wave, these crashing waves that were coming into this landscape in Ucluelet on the west coast. And it was everything that I wanted. It was just that brief moment. And I did a whole video about it, but yeah, it was like, I think it was 7 times. 7 times I'd made that journey to get this shot.
I remember the video, yeah. Yeah.
And it's so frustrating, but then when you finally get it, it's like, oh yeah, it was. You forget about all those miserable days, and it's just all worth it. And so that's probably the shot that I'm most proud of in the last 12 months. But the thing is, and I bet I'm not the only photographer that feels like this, is you might have a favorite for a while, and you'll go back through your back catalogue. Maybe in 2 years' time, I might be looking at an image that I shot this year, and I maybe just didn't process it right, or I didn't crop it right, or something wasn't quite perfect. And you might see it in a different way in a few years with fresh eyes, and you do a new rendition of it, and all of a sudden that can become your favorite shot. I've done that many times before, where you pull this old little pearl out of a hard drive that's long forgotten. I think that's one of the benefits of been doing this for years, is you do have these little treasure troves hidden away on shelves that have just got images on that you've completely forgotten about. And then, because I sometimes have it where, because I've posted so many images online over the years, you get people contacting you saying, oh, I'd like to get a print of this, or a magazine or something wants something. Not very often, but sometimes. So I'll dig through my old hard drives, and as you're digging through the old hard drives, other things pop up. You're like, oh, I remember that, which is not the thing that you were looking for, but you dig into this old folder and you're like, bloody hell, that was actually a good shot. Why didn't I even post that shot? So then you go down the rabbit hole of pearl diving, right? And you start pulling out all these long forgotten bangers. So it's such an odd question. You're like, which images were your favorites? Ask me in 5 years and I'll tell you then.
Well, it's interesting you say that, right? Because particularly I notice, me anyway, from a seascape point of view, is that when I'm editing my images, I'm looking at the waves, and I might be looking for a particular type of wave, and I go, okay, that's the one I'm picking out. But then when I go back on it at a later stage, there's a different sequence of waves, and I go, Jesus, how did I even overlook that? But it's because I was actually focused on one type of wave that I edited, but there's so many other ones within that as well. And I think that's what I love about having your back catalog of images, because you'll go back and you'll find that gem that you've overlooked, and it slaps you in the face, and you kind of go, what was I thinking, that I didn't even do anything further with that? And then it's kind of rewarding, because you can go back into that and you can refeel and reimagine everything that you've experienced when you were taking that at the time as well, which is great.
Well, that's what we love about photography, right? I mean, it's reliving that moment. It's experiencing afresh that moment in time that you were bloody lucky to have experienced. And so I think that's why it's the miracle of photography. I think that's why people, since it was invented, have loved photography, because it's just this perfect moment in time, or often sometimes a terrible moment in time, historic. But for us, usually it's that perfect moment in time. You can look back on it and you can just experience everything. I've said this I think I've said this in an interview before, but I have this weird ability to look at an image that I shot years ago, and I can actually remember what I was feeling, what I was going through, what was the story of my life on that particular day. So, if I look at an image from Scotland 10 years ago, I can clearly remember, oh shit, that was the day that I was late for Christmas dinner, and I was kind of stressing about getting back in time, and the roads were icy, so I was rushing, but then I had to slow down, and rushing, and then I had to slow down. And whatever it is that you were experiencing that day, whether you were happy or sad, whether you were stressed or relaxed, or whatever it is, it puts me right back in that mental space. And I wouldn't say it's like total recall, because I couldn't remember a conversation, but I have total recall of the emotions and of the feeling that I had at the time that I took that shot.
Gavin, speaking of going back over lots of images, I'm sure, over the time when you were compiling all the images for your book, you must have really had a good time doing that. So, is there anything that you've taken, I suppose, over the last number of years that you were looking at and went, that's got to go in the book straight away, even before you were thinking about getting the book or doing the book?
Oh, you mean the book Chasing Awe with Gavin Hardcastle? Actually, I should have a copy of it. Hang on.
I have a copy here for you.
Oh, there you go. There you
I
go.
have a
Yeah.
copy here. It's a fantastic book. Look at the beauty of that book, the amount of hours that went into designing it. It looks absolutely fantastic. So
Oh, that is
maybe we should
shiny.
talk about the book, actually. I think. Will we actually talk about, since I have
Oh,
it in
go
my
on
hand?
then. I mean, if
Kind of
you
be a
know,
shame not to, really, wouldn't
yeah.
it? You know what I mean?
Go
All
on
right.
then. Yeah.
So the giveaway is unlocked now, right? So you actually have to give away a copy of the book as a prize to one of our listeners, right? So
All right. So how do we decide which listener gets it then?
I think what we should do is we should do a random draw. When you look at, you can do random pickers on the internet. So what I'll do is with this, we'll do this on video. I'll put it up on YouTube. And here's what we'll do. For somebody to be able to win a copy of this fantastic book, Chasing Awe, Gavin Hardcastle, all they have to do is to comment below and how many images are in the book. Simple.
Yeah. But I don't know how many.
I'll count them.
All right. So I can just say how many there are now, right?
Yeah.
And then if they comment, that means that they were watching, they were paying attention.
Maybe keep that till the very end, so we have people
make them watch it more.
Through, the whole way through. Yeah. You know, let's find out the fantastic story behind this incredible book. So, Gavin, we've already said, you know, look, the name of your book is Chasing Awe. I think it's a fantastic name, and it's really, really catchy, and it also is intriguing because you want to find out more. How did you come up with the name for the book?
Well, the name of the book is actually Chasing Awe with Gavin Hardcastle, and the reason why I did that was because I just came up with the title Chasing Awe because that is what we do, right? That is when I'm out shooting and I'm hiking up a mountain or I'm driving for hours, I'm chasing that sense of awe that we feel when we stand on a mountaintop and we just go, wow, you know, that's what I'm always chasing. So I figured that was appropriate. So I called the book Chasing Awe, and then I thought at the very last minute, I wonder if anyone else has done a book called Chasing Awe.
Okay. And
I found one that was like a poetry or self-help book or something. So I thought, well, I'll change the title to Chasing Awe with Gavin Hardcastle. And then it's different enough that you don't have to worry about lawsuits, I hope. It's just, you know, one long title, and it's a completely different genre. So I would hope, please don't sue. I didn't make that much money. So
no, don't sue. Well, I mean, look, unless somebody else is called Gavin Hardcastle and they've called a book called Chasing Awe, then you can sue them. Because I think by putting in your name at the very end of it as well, what it also does is that it's not just Chasing Awe, it's Chasing Awe with Gavin Hardcastle. So,
there you go.
You know what I mean? So it's a double whammy of goodness.
A double whammy. I love a good double whammy. Yes.
Yeah, yes. Of goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, and the book. I mean, I would reckon that every landscape photographer that is kind of working either professionally or semi-professionally and puts their heart and soul into their art, I would guess that every one of them would love eventually to publish a book one day of some of their best work. So that was something that I always wanted to do, you know, right from when I first started. And it was just, everything just kind of fell into place last year. You know, Tom put his book out and he had great success with that. So Tom gave me some advice on how to get going with it. And then I started the process of contacting Canadian book companies, and finally found one that was, you know, capable of making a high quality product. And off we went. And I thought it would be quite quick. It wasn't. It took forever. So I managed to sell a whole bunch of pre-orders around Christmas. And then I was finished. I was finished just after Christmas, ready to print. But then the print company got back to me and said, well, it's probably going to be, you know, March before we can get these out. Or I think they printed them late February. And then I got the books on, I think it was March 1st. And they were all garbage.
Wow.
They were all terrible. And it wasn't that the quality of the manufacturer was wrong. It was that something must have gone wrong in their either the printer that they were using or there was something that fell apart in the system that they were using, and basically all of the colors came out consistently wrong. So everything had this kind of weird yellowy green color cast to it that was not present in the proofs. So all the proofs that they sent me were absolutely perfect. I was absolutely stunned by the proofs, and I couldn't tell them enough times, these proofs are fantastic. If this is what the book looks like, I'll be delighted. And the books came, all 2,000 of them. They're all shrink wrapped. They're all packed into these boxes, and every single one of them was wrong. And I was absolutely devastated, because not only had I done everything right, and I was excited to get my, when you get that book, that very first book, and you open it up, and it's like, this is crap.
Yeah,
I was devastated. I mean, I am English. I am from Yorkshire, so I don't cry. Like I don't even have tear ducts.
Tear ducts, yeah.
So I never cry, but I wanted to. When I opened those books, I felt like crying.
And you self-published this. You didn't go with a publisher as well, so you had everything on yourself effectively then as well.
So it was self-published. So and you have to pay in advance.
Yeah.
So even before you've even got a single book, you have to pay in full to get these books, and then the shipping is like $1,000, and it's an expensive process. And so all the books were complete garbage. But luckily, and of course, I had a lot to say about that with the company that
no
did
doubt.
To their credit, they said, okay, yes, it's not right. We're really sorry, and we'll fix it, and we'll redo the order. And that was huge expense to them to redo the order. And they had to also pay for someone to pick up the old books, take them to a recycling depot, get rid of them. And like the costs were astronomical. And so even though it took years off my life because of the stress of it, because the problem is, I was so excited to finally experience relief on March 1st, when I could start sending out these books to people that were complaining, where the hell is my book? And I'd been sending people emails on the newsletter. Some of them didn't get it. Most of them did. And I was trying to keep people informed as to what was going on with the books, because it was dragging on and on, so I was I needed to feel relief that they were finally getting shipped out. So when that didn't happen, and the company were telling me it's probably going to be another month before you actually get these books, the proper books. And I was just like, it was another month of stress of fending off people that were complaining, rightly so, because people were frustrated, and not as frustrated as I was, but they were frustrated. And to this day, that most people have got their books, that there are still a few in, let's say, New Zealand or Australia, and some in the UK. I mean, your book arrived yesterday, right?
Yeah, yesterday.
I sent that 2 months ago. So here in Canada, we have this thing called Canada Post. And when I email people that email me saying, where the hell is my book? I have to say, it was sent on May 13th, and Canada Post is quoting 4 to 12 weeks for delivery. 12 weeks? What are you doing with that book for 12 weeks? No, I think they do. And I have no evidence for this. I'm just making stuff up. But it seems to me like, okay, if I've given you that book, that box, and it doesn't get there for 12 weeks, where's it going in between? So I'm thinking that they maybe just store it. They put it in a depot, store it for nearly 2 months, and then they send it out. They send it out the same way on that very last week that they would have done if you'd paid an extra $70 to get it there in 2 weeks. I'm not saying it's a scam, because I don't have any evidence, but it feels kind of like a scam to me.
It screams of a scam,
It smells a bit fishy, but that's what we're dealing with.
Well, go on,
Yeah, but some of my book buyers are in the States, so they get their book, or Canada, so they get their books really quick, because I can FedEx those. It's within the budget for shipping. But anyone else, it just takes 4 to 12 weeks. And it is so painful because I want them to get their book as badly as they want the book to arrive, you know.
Yeah.
And everyone seems, the feedback I get is fantastic. Everyone's delighted with it. Everyone loves it. There's even a little puzzle for people to solve in there. And if you solve the puzzle and you can email me the correct answer, you get to download a free copy of one of my online courses. So there's a lot to it, but yeah, it's been a labor of love. It's been very stressful. But when I finally did get those proper copies in my hand,
the relief.
It was the relief, and then it was the satisfaction.
Yeah.
You know, and then I had to get the signing, I think 900 of them or something like that. It was something like 900 of them. I've got a really good signature now. It was pretty bad. So there's some people, the first ones to buy, I've got this book that's got just an atrocious signature, which that's probably worth more money. That's probably
yeah. Collector's editions. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the last ones, the more recent ones, you know, perfect.
Finessed.
Perfect signature. Yeah, it is. It's really finessed.
And, you know, you mentioned there as well about, you know, you doing it all yourself. I mean, you had to take the books, I presume, down to the Canadian Postal Service, knowing that, okay, I'm dropping this off today. The next time this is going to see another human being is going to be 2 months and stuff like that. So did you drop them all down yourself when you were shipping them out? Yeah,
it was me and Amanda did it. So it's really stressful because I think if you add up how much money I've spent on shipping them out through FedEx and Canada Post, it's something like $40,000.
Wow.
So I've spent all of this money to ship these books out, and they still haven't arrived. So I've got this massive amount of cash that's just evaporated.
Gone.
And loads of people still haven't got their books yet. And you know, Canada Post just say, oh, it'll get there, don't worry. Just wait. And I obviously I have to pass that on to the buyer, you know, but so far, out of all of the books that I've sent, there has only been 2 damaged books.
That's good.
That I've had to resend them a new one. 2. So, but like I said, they haven't all landed yet. So we'll see. Ask me in about 6 weeks, there might be 2 more. But I think that's a pretty good rate. I thought there'd be way more damaged books than that, but.
Well, I think, you know, the way you shipped it was quite good as well, though. I mean, you know, it was in the pizza box. I mean, but you also had it wrapped in bubble wrap. And I mean, you know, they're relatively strong by design anyways. The edges you want to be worried about, and the edges were strong. So, I mean, it reached all the way to Ireland, and there was no damage whatsoever to the box. I've had stuff that came from Dublin that looked like it's been trampled on by 4 elephants along the way to me. So, you know, they did well, in fairness. The whole thing arrived in good stead,
Well, I'll tell Amanda that because she packs them all. So she lovingly wraps every single book in bubble wrap. She puts that unicorn sticker on and she blesses them with her energy crystals, and then she sends them out.
I kept mine.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I wanted to keep hanging out. I was going to see it with the light. No, maybe not. Yeah, maybe. There you go. Yeah, an upside down one. But I kept mine because I said, you know what, that'll be worth money in years to come.
Well, that's Amanda's hands have put that on your package there.
There you go. Careful.
Oh, that sounded terrible. I didn't mean. Sorry, I love.
And one final question there for you, I suppose, just before we go for a quick break, right? We mentioned about you wanted to, you know, have a book, and I agree with you. It is something I think which any aspiring photographer would love to be able to see their images. Not only printed, because an image doesn't come to life until it's printed anyway, but a body of work in totality. How long did it take you to put it together? And I'll go into the details after the break of how you put it together, but how long did it take you to put the whole thing together?
Well, I mean, aside from the years and years that went into shooting the images,
sure,
actually just writing all of the stories that go with every single image, it took 2 whole months just to write the stories. And then you have to go through spell check and grammar check. I had to send stuff off to my mother so that she could spell check things for me, because my spelling is atrocious, you know. It took way longer than I thought it was going to take. It was a monumental task. And I swore once I'd finished it, I'm never going to do that again. But I'm already starting to think about my next book.
Brilliant. Well, look, on that bombshell, what we'll do is we'll take a very, very quick break, and we'll be right back, because I want to get into the nuts and bolts of how you decided to put the whole thing together. So yeah, we'll be right back after this.
All right.
If you're enjoying this episode of the podcast, why not jump over to iTunes or Spotify and listen to the back catalogue that we have. Some great episodes where we talk about photography, gear, and some excellent guests along the way. Thanks very much for listening and for watching. We'll see you on the next one. You're very welcome back to the Irish Photography Podcast. So, Gavin, I kind of want to get into the nuts and bolts about putting the whole thing together here. So, like, was it a hard process for you to decide on, what images were going to go in the book and coming up with the whole flow and everything else? Tell me about the thought process you went through to put the book together.
Yes, I mean, so the whole process of choosing the images, was that subtle enough? I think that was quite subtle.
That was subtle, yeah.
The whole process of choosing the images was really time consuming, because I've got hundreds, if not thousands, of images that I've posted over the years. And the thing is, so, I mean, if you look at the book, right, what you have to do when you're making a book is you have to kind of think about they might not necessarily be your favorites. You've got to think about which images have an interesting story to go with it, because a good book isn't, a good photography book to me isn't just about the images. I think because of my channel and the way that I do things on my channel, I think people kind of expected a bit more than just, they wanted an insight into the experience. And of course, all of these moments and these experiences are not just unique to me. Every landscape photographer who does what I do, whether it's professionally or just for a hobby, we all do the same things, right? So I knew that the stories would resonate. And so, you kind of pick the images based on, it's a balance. It's like, well, that's not necessarily, the best image, but it works on a small page. It works on a, in a book. Some of my best images that I personally love only work huge. They only work if they're, 6 feet tall or whatever. And some of my best images don't have a story. And so that's the one thing I want to tell people who've got the book, who've read it. All of these stories are real and genuine and happened at that time. None of them I didn't like pick an image that didn't have a story and then just invent one. They're all legit. And that's kind of like, that is going to be my challenge with the next book. It's like, okay, well, now that I've set this precedent,
have to top it.
Well, you have to at least be able to continue that momentum. So if I don't have any stories in the next year or two and I publish another book, it's going to be a very different book, right? So, but I mean, there's always some shenanigans, me.
For sure, yeah, sure.
But yeah, I had to write these stories out, and I had to work on my writing a little bit. I mean, I'm an avid reader, but I've never studied writing. I did English literature in school, but I was crap. I found Shakespeare extremely boring.
Yeah, me too.
But I feel like I did a good job of the writing. The way that I judge it is, would I be entertained? Would I be interested in reading this book while I'm sat on the crapper and I'm going through every page? And would it inspire me? Would it give me chuckles? Would I be able to identify with the struggles? And I think I did a good job of that. And I know you've only had it a day, but I guarantee you, if you read that every time you visit the porcelain, something will resonate for you. I'm pretty sure of it.
Well, I've read some of the stories already, and I agree with you wholeheartedly when you're saying about the sentiment, the feeling, the humor, the actual the Fototripper experience. Everything is all there to correspond to the image. And there was one story that I read there today on it, and you mentioned about, and it just so happens that a square crop worked perfectly good. And it also worked perfect for the book. And it's actually that, when you think about the whole cohesiveness of everything coming together, the story, the image within the book. But then I think one area is that when you're picking the images, you're going to lay out the images as well within the book. And then how do you decide how you're going to lay out those images? Because there was one that you'd taken there with the waterfall on the beach, that you went there for a sunset and you wanted to shoot the Milky Way, but Amanda decided that she wanted to become a ghost in the middle of the night, and you've that as the next image straight after the book. So one flows onto the other.
Yeah,
they're both linked as well. So how did you kind of come up with the flow of the images to kind of have a cohesiveness on that?
I think generally you don't want to have like 3 mountain shots together. Page after page of mountain shots is going to get kind of stale. So you've got to mix it up enough so that there's variation. If you jump from page to page and you read it in a linear sequence, you need to have that variation. But then there are stories like that where, you have to have that story on the next page. It doesn't work if you say, jump to page 84, So, but other than that, really all I wanted to do is just make sure that there was enough balance of eye candy with interesting and inspiring narrative, and then variation throughout the book. Some books they've got a theme where it could be like seasons, or you might have one book that's just all about trees, but I wanted to kind of appeal to a wider audience with a huge sort of variety of different type of imagery. Plus it gets, I think I would get bored making a book that was just like all trees or all one thing. So for me, I had fun putting together the images. It was just very laborious to write those stories. And the thing is, once you've written a story, the first writing of it's fun. That's loads of fun because you're laughing, you're reliving it. But then once you've done that first draft, and then you're now going back and checking grammar and checking spelling and then rewriting it, then it's just tedium, right? So there's a lot of drudgery work. If anyone out there is thinking of doing a book, the easy way to do it is to not have stories, just have pictures. But if you want to do this bit, prepare to put some hours in. Let me tell you that.
And you mentioned about stories, and that picture that you just opened there is one of the stories that I read, which is you mentioned about your favorite thing. Well, not their least favorite thing is the Instagram, right? So you got people on Instagram who arrive and they all rock up and they all get the images. And you mentioned about something that's within that image, which is somebody on a canoe going out into the water. And then it's like, it's perfect because it worked perfectly well within the image. But then you're also telling people not only the story behind it, but also the settings. And also how you took the photograph. And, you focus stacked for this because the light was bright in the top right-hand corner. And, you did a blend in the images here. So for the person that's picking up the book, yes, they're seeing the image. Yes, they're seeing the story. But they're also learning a lot themselves, I think, which is really valuable to be able to understand how the hell did he put this together.
Well, again, it's a continuation of what I do on my channel. So you give them a bit of education, you give them a bit of inspiration, and then you give them entertainment, right? So that's what the book is. It's just a continuation of that. I think if I hadn't put, a bit of information about how I did the shot, I think people would have been, I don't want to use the word cheated, but they might have felt a bit like something was missing, right? Because that's what I do. That's in my videos. I'm transparent.
Yes.
I feel like as a person, I'm fairly transparent. And here's the thing. When you're an artist, let's put that book down there.
Only for a second, mind, because it has to come back up subliminally again.
Of course it does. Yeah, there you go. When you're an artist, right, and you put yourself out there as an artist, you have a choice. You can either portray yourself as this mysterious, mystical artist and sort of try and create this aura, this cachet of mystery, aloofness, which very few people can pull off. And if it's fake, if it's a facade, that facade will crumble and you will be exposed. Or you can just be transparent and you just be who you are, and I'll tell you, that's by far the easiest because it's not fake. So you can maintain it, right? Because it's real. So that's what I decided to do with the book. I do want to be seen as a serious artist. I do want people to respect my work and take it seriously. But at the same time, I'm not going to be pretentious and come across all mystical and mysterious because it's too late. The cat's out of the bag. If you've seen my videos, you know who I am and what I'm like. So the book is just more of the same, but it does give you those finer details that you can't put in a video and that take a bit longer to write down and create a story from. than I actually have for doing videos. Videos are kind of rushed out to some degree because you have to constantly pump them out. With a book, it's a slow process. Everything that you see has been refined and tweaked, and it's a bit more of a polished product than, let's say, a vlog that I shot last week.
And again, people can study this and go back to it at their leisure, whereas you might watch something on YouTube, you might see this image and you'll go, okay, I took this shot here, whatever, f16 1/20th of a second, and I blended for this. That's gone. Whereas with the book, you can look and you can actually see, and you can see the results of what you've done, because there was one image within it, I don't remember the place, forgive me, but it was a waterfall, and you've got one exposure for slow moving water, another fast exposure for splashes of water that were coming out. You've got light that's coming in the top, and you've got these crisscross branches. And when I first looked at the image, I went, wow, that's a nice image. But then when I read it, and you could see, I think you call it time blending, if I'm remembering my things correctly.
Yeah.
So you've got one image for the long exposure of the big waterfall, but then you've got the splash of water that's jumping out. And that, to me, explains why you did it, because it was the best representation of what you saw when you were taking the image, but also how you did it. So you're educating somebody at a pace which is not the fast pace that we see on YouTube. It's at their own pace, as you say, on the crapper or whatever, but they can go back over it, look at the image and study that,
Yeah, you can look at it, say, okay, he's given me the clue as to how he did it. And then you can take your time at your leisure. You can even go back to it tomorrow and just, oh yeah, I get it. Right, I see what he did there. And I just think about what would I want if I was buying a photography book, and what would I want? Especially, well, actually, it doesn't matter if I was a beginner or advanced. I mean, advanced, I feel like I can look at anyone's image and know straight away how they did it. But for some people that are kind of like beginner to intermediate, you do need to know those clues. You do need to have those insights into how it was all put together, because I don't know. I mean, again, it goes back to that air of mystery. You could keep all your secrets and be mysterious, but there's a million other people out there that aren't, that are willing to give away any secret. So why bother? Why don't you just be transparent and just help people along? And, my goal has always been, since I started teaching photography years ago, my goal has always been to get everyone that I teach to a point where when it comes to technique, whether it's processing or whether it's the actual using of the camera, I want them all to be at such a level that there's now no one even needs to question, how did you do that? They all know how you did it. Mm-hmm. And once you've got everyone to this sort of elevated state of skill, now the only thing that's left to differentiate your work from anybody else's is composition. And to me, that's what photography and art is all about. It's how you see. How do you render what you see? And composition to me it's a passion. That's the only reason why I've done all of those online photography courses in composition, is because, to be quite honest with you, it's the only thing that I'm excited to talk about. There's a reason why you don't see loads of processing videos on my website, because I find it boring. It's boring to record, and it's boring to learn. Even it's kind of tedious to learn, but to teach composition is fun, and to learn composition to me is fun. So yeah, I'd love to get everyone to that state where they don't need to worry about how it was put together. And so by having this transparency and giving people these insights, it gives them that little clue to get them closer to that state where all that they have to think about is composition.
Couple of quick fire questions for you. What paper did you use for the book? Had you a choice in that, and why did you choose it?
Oh God, yeah. I did. I had a lot of choice. So basically, the company send you this huge book, and there's all of these different types of paper. I think it's called Garda silk. So it's kind of a very subtle luster to it. So I didn't want completely matte, but I didn't want super shiny either. So to me, it's that perfect balance. And also, when you look at it, the pages that they give you in this book, every paper has a slightly different whiteness to it. Some are slightly more yellow, some are slightly more pure white. And so colors render differently and all these different types of paper. So the Garda silk just had a beautiful look to it. Everything was super sharp. The colors looked great. And I liked the sort of very subtle luster to it. And one other thing I'll point out about the book is it's all made on what they call FSC paper, which is like responsible forestry. So apparently it's all renewable. So every tree that gets cut down gets replanted. So it's not, supposedly good for the environment. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. And one other question, I suppose, is in relation to putting the book together. I mean, a cover. The cover is very, very important, right? And, your book, Chasing Awe with Gavin Hardcastle, it has to have an awesome image at the front. And also, more importantly, it has to be superior to any other books. You mentioned, Thomas's book and Adam's book. Like, you wanted to come up with something and go, holy shit, look at this. This is boom. Yes. So what made you decide to have this incredible image as the cover image?
Well, I just wanted something that smacked you in the face.
And it does.
but I also wanted something that looked kind of like, I'm a fan of movie posters. I really love movie posters. And I really loved, as a kid in the 1980s, we would go to the video store and, you'd pick up this VHS cassette and it would be beautifully designed with typography, and it would just be set on the page in such a way that you'd be like, oh yeah, I want to read that. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with the book. And then if you look on the back side, there's me in situ doing my thing, So yeah, I just, you have to pick an image that kind of smacks you a little bit, but also has space for typography. Yeah. And so that's what I think I managed to achieve. And I did all of this design work myself, so I'm quite happy with it,
Fair play. Yeah, no, it all came together fantastically. Like, I suppose a couple of final questions for you is, number one, if somebody wants to get their hands on a copy of this awesome book, how can they get their hands on a copy? Not about winning one just yet, but where can they go to buy one?
Where can they go to buy one? Yes, because that's the important thing. Just go to Fototripper.com and you will be slapped in the face with promotions for my book. I'm not so subtle on my website as I am in my videos.
Okay. And now, right, back to your forfeit. So, okay, back to the giveaway. So what we said we'll do is somebody can win, I presume, a signed copy, by yours truly?
I would even dedicate it. I'd sign it and I'd give them a little dedication. I just need to know the name of the person. And so I'll put a little note in there for who it is.
Okay, so for somebody to be able to win a copy of this book, all they need to do is comment down below how many images are in the book. So we've saved it from earlier on. Gavin, how many images are in this incredible book?
Now you're asking me. 60. We'll say 60. Because if I'm wrong, and there's 59, well, there's one on the cover as well. So that's your 60, right?
Yeah.
So we'll say 60. The answer I'm giving is 60. So if they write that down and they haven't skipped ahead, then we know they've got it right. We know that they actually watched the video.
Okay, and all they have to do when they're commenting is do not say there is 60 pages in the book. Just put 60, because anybody else then that wants to cheat will just go along and go 60. Okay, I'm going to write the same. So just write 60, and that will keep the aloofness of the whole giveaway as well. And thanks very much for giving me the book.
You don't want to end up with a page full of 60, 60, 60. So I would say let's have a witty comment to show that you've got a sense of humor, and that because I feel like you have to have a sense of humor to qualify to own the book.
Story,
right? Yeah, so we'll just maybe just 60, and then your own little sentence, your own little witticism, and that proves that you're on board with this type of publication.
Shenanigans. Yeah. Well, look, we'll pick one at random as well. We'll leave it go after a week after publication, and then we'll pick a random winner, and then we'll send out that signed copy. Gavin, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back on. I've loved hearing the story of the book. I'm really looking forward now to getting my hands on it across all the pages so I can see all the stories that go on behind it. I think I'm up to page 34 so far, and it's absolutely incredible. So thanks for coming on. It's been your absolute pleasure, to use your own line, right back at you.
No, it really has. It really has been your absolute pleasure. And I'm sure that now that you have the book, you really look forward to those special moments on the porcelain like you've never looked forward to them before.
I'm going to build a special shelf just for it.
The shrine.
The shrine, yeah, the shrine.
Yeah.
Listen, man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much. And yeah, sure, look, we'll talk to you soon. So from me in Ireland to you, and again in the beautiful, beautiful Canadian area, Slán go fóill.
All right, mate. Thanks for having me on. Bye-bye.
Cheers,
Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.
Hey guys, if you dig what you're hearing, why don't you jump over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and don't forget to share with your friends. With all that done, we'll see you next week. And remember, keep shooting.